What's going on, everybody? JT here, C. Will, David. This is episode 75 of The Next Block, and today we have a fantastic guest coming on the show. We've got Staci Warden, the CEO of the Algorand Foundation. Super excited to have her on. If you're just joining us now, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, hit us up in the live chat with any questions, comments, anything you want to say. Hit us up in that live chat. And before we introduce Staci, I want to pass this off to David because we actually have a fantastic giveaway. It's a wallet drain contest that he's going to announce. He's going to give you all the details, and hopefully one of you wins all of the Gora, all the Coop coins, the Exa market loot boxes in it, and so much more. So David, take it away. Go from there.
Yeah. So obviously, guys, thanks and shout out to everybody who's joined, our show or this live show. Obviously, 75th episode with Staci Warden is going to be amazing. And we thought, why not make it even more amazing by giving away some awesome prizes? So we have done this once before, so hopefully everybody's got a pen, paper ready. But go ahead and throw up the giveaway on the screen here. It is going to be a wallet drain challenge. So this is a crossword puzzle. And if you're watching the live show, you're getting 3 words ahead of when we drop this on Twitter. So you do have an advantage right now. We're going to drop the link in the chat so you can click this link and it'll take you to this image that you can, bring up on your phone or on your computer, wherever you're at. And you can start solving this crossword puzzle. And as you'll notice, every one of the words that you solve is a different key to an Algorand wallet. So you will be able to take those words once you solve them, put them in order, and you will have access to all of the goodies, which, like JT said, 2 Exa market loot boxes, 200 Gora, 250 ALGO, 250 Coop, and 1 mintable NF domain as long as it's 4 or more characters. So get to it. Let's see somebody win and rekey or drain this wallet live during the show.
Absolutely. And if anyone didn't take a screenshot of that image, as David said, there's a link in the live chat currently on YouTube to a Google Drive that'll have that image there. You can load it up, fill out the crossword, and hopefully win some crypto. Honestly, that's really exciting. Special shout out to all our sponsors that made it happen. And now let's introduce our wonderful guest, Staci. So Staci, as many of you know, is the CEO of the Algorand Foundation. I believe she's coming up on her 2-year anniversary in a couple of months. So that's definitely really exciting. She was recently just named Forbes Women's 50 over 50 list, which is fantastic. She worked as an executive director at the Milken Institute, as an executive director at JP Morgan, and as the director of the NASDAQ, as well as an international economist at the US Treasury Department. So much more. A fantastic career, fantastic guest. We're excited to bring her on. And without further ado, Staci, how you doing?
Hey, how are you guys?
We're doing fantastic. We really appreciate your time.
I haven't talked to you since the last time we talked, which was, as you will recall, when you hijacked me at Decipher and I was walking to get a cup of coffee and you pulled me on live. It was live, C. Will.
Yes.
And you started asking me questions. I was like, It was fun.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an absolute blast, honestly. And he's gonna pay you back for that meeting right there with some pizza. I heard there's a pizza giveaway.
Yes.
That'd be awesome if we could actually send pizza to all the live listeners. That'd be truly amazing. But Staci, thank you very much for coming on the show. There's all sorts of amazing Algorand updates out there, and I think we should just start right off the bat with some of those updates and start talking about them. So Algorand recently announced at Token 2049 in Singapore that it would be moving to a more peer-to-peer gossip network, not relying on the relay nodes, and incentivizing node running and consensus participation. What led you all to this decision? When is it going to roll out, and how's it going to work?
Yeah, so to the extent that we have ever been criticized about not being fully decentralized, it's typically around the relay nodes. Mm-hmm. And in particular around the fact that not just anybody can run a relay node. You have to meet certain requirements, certain technical requirements. And the foundation enforces those requirements. And so I think this is an attempt to, again, just push, the next step in our decentralization. So right now, as you know, we have you could call it kind of a hub and spoke model where every participation node is attached to, I think it is 4 relay nodes, and the relay nodes talk to each other. And so you go relay node to relay node and then back down to the participation node attached to that relay node. And so this is a way to go from participation node to participation node in a kind of a gossip net. It's called, I always call it whisper net, and that's wrong. It's a gossip net kind of network. And right now, I think the way that they're thinking about it is that you can now, once it gets rolled out, you can use the relay node framework or you can use the gossip network framework. So we're going to make sure we don't, deprecate one completely and go to the other one. We're going to be running them both simultaneously, and there may be differences in speed and also maybe differences in price. So this is kind of a no lose proposition, I think, for us. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, it is truly exciting because I do believe that's probably been the biggest point of criticism, valid or not. I mean, it's still been definitely one of the biggest points of criticism, at least the relay nodes. So it's going to be more of an optional network where you could still opt to use the relays, maybe for better, quicker speed or quicker transactions or whatever, or you could choose to use the more decentralized peer-to-peer network. Is that correct?
Yes, 100%.
Fantastic. And what about the consensus incentivization? Because that's been a thing that, a lot of us that have listened to Silvio, there was, he has a philosophy that was maybe sort of against that idea. So how did Algorand come to terms with that idea to implement it?
Well, what happened really is that Silvio came to terms with the idea. So, most other protocols have some kind of consensus mechanism, right? But and this is, we were talking a little bit about him backstage, and this is, I think, is a part of the ethos that he has, which is what you guys like about him, right? He's kind of public citizen inclined, right? And he said, look, this is not by design, this protocol is not, it's a lightweight, light touch protocol, right? When I wasn't here at the time, but when we started, you could run a participation node on a Raspberry Pi, right? Now, as it's gotten more performance, you do need to be running a high-end laptop, and it will now cost you something like $500 a month to be running a participation node. And so I think as the burden a little bit increased, he started recognizing that although the ethos is still very much there for him, that you have a public citizen duty, which is why we have the governors and voting on things for the governorship as well. But this is part of what you should be doing. But we're going to move to a way that recognizes that now that there is some cost, as it's become such a performant chain, there is some cost to running a participation node, and there should be some incentivization around it. Now, these things are a little bit related as well, right? Because if you're going participation node to participation node, if you can incentivize those, then you'll have more participation nodes and your gossip network will be better. And if you're going to go, participation node to participation node, you want to make sure that you have enough and that you're decentralized enough. So I think they're distinct, but they're not completely unrelated as ideas as that we're rolling out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it seems like it was a long journey on that philosophy change, so to speak. But I want to ask about one more upgrade because it's maybe the biggest, maybe bigger than the consensus upgrade, because it allows for millions of more developers to build on Algorand. And that's the new Algokit update that includes Python as a coding language, which I believe is maybe the second most popular coding language in the world. And I think that's a massive move for Algorand, honestly. But could you speak a little bit more to that? Why was that decision made? How will it change Algorand? And what are you excited to see built using Python?
Yeah, I just could not be more excited about this. And again, if I can just invoke my founder a little bit, he tells this very funny kind of fable about Venice, and Venice is a sea warring city-state back, 1,000 years ago, and it would fight like the Greek island city-states and the other city-states of Italy, which would be, the analogy there would be us bickering with Solana or whatever, right? But actually, if they looked over their shoulder, there's a whole entire continent of Europe behind them to be conquered, right? And so when we think about Python, that's what we think about. It's all of those Web 2 developers. It's all of those corporate developers, full stack developers that are used to building in Python, and they want to build in Python. They're interested in Web 3, but they're not going to, they've got good jobs and they make money and they're successful. They're not going to go out and learn some new language that they don't know what it is and, take a lark on it. But if they can write smart contracts in a language that they already know, then that is really going to be, we think, a way to kind of bring them into the funnel, as the marketers say. Now, other protocols have added Python to their library, I will say, but we are bringing the ability to write a smart contract in Python, and it's not anywhere else in Web3. So we're pretty we're pretty excited about that, I would say. And then consensus too, that's not going to be something that we roll out next month. Right now, it's a very unreadable document of a list of all the game playing and things that could possibly go wrong, and what are the cryptographic and incentive structures to make sure that those things don't happen. I mean, there a lot of thought needs to go into something like this, but we are just moving forward like to both of these things.
Yeah, I can definitely say that, I tried, once I saw the news drop of Algorand accepting Python, I was like, I should go try to learn this. I should really, just start trying to learn how to code and stuff. I'm not there yet, obviously, but I can understand that how hard it would be if you are trying to learn something new rather than just having something that a lot of people already know, and how that could really help adoption and growth for the network. And so kind of the next question with that is, with this buildable hackathon, right? How is that kind of going hand in hand with, all these recent updates, and, what are some of the prizes? What does that whole, program look like over the next couple months for Algorand?
Right. So that is a very good segue, because the other use case, I think, and the one that I think is most maybe interesting, is you are an entrepreneur, but you're not technical, but you have a great idea and you understand product market fit and you understand how to build a business. And what are you going to do? Try to go and find Web3 developers that are very expensive because there's not very many of them? Or are you going to try to get technical co-founders who know Python and go to a sea of, the 10 million of those that exist? And so it's very entrepreneurship friendly as well. And we hope to see a lot more business formation happening because of this as well, right? Just by lowering the cost for the non-technical co-founder. And so Buildable is part of that. It's buildable because Algorand is so buildable. And we are launching this thing in sort of October to November timeframe. It's launching very quickly, very soon, and it is going to have $200,000 in prizes. So it'll be a complete online hackathon. And what we wanted to do was, and this is why, we took the time to set up all of these partnerships before we launched. So it's meant to be for real ideas that could have real products behind them, so that real things come out of it, right? In the way that folks came out of an accelerator, right? We want like a lot of folks type models to come out of this kind of thing. And so we have, I think it's 5 verticals, and each vertical has a very large partner associated with it. So like the DeFi vertical, we're partnered with Circle, for example. The consumer vertical, we're partnered with AWS. In fact, the whole thing is co-sponsored by AWS. And we have
that's huge.
Yeah, that's really huge. We, I think, are by ourselves sponsoring the impact vertical, but we have a couple of we've got sort of 5 of these verticals, all with co-sponsors. And then we also have VC judges, right? So the guys from DWF will be a judge, Blockchain Capital will be a judge, QCP Partners will be a judge. And so the idea is that it's real. You kind of put your money where your mouth is. If you're going to show up, we're going to show up. We're going to show up with VCs. We're going to show up with prize money, and we're going to show up with partners that can help you. And so you're not going to do it on a lark. You're going to take it seriously. You're going to put a good team together. You're going to really spend the month doing it, and you're going to be fully engaged while you're in it. So we thought by us raising the bar on it, we would get kind of raise the bar participants as well. So you guys, please do help us promote this, because we want a lot of energy into this to kind of end the year. And we've put a lot of work into it. We're really, right now, it's like all hands on deck trying to get the word out around it.
Yeah, this is huge.
Massive. I'm going to let Steve will take the next question, but I want to build on that real quick. I just want to ask one quick question. The registration for that Buildable started 8 days ago, I believe. When does it end? Is there an end period for it? When do people have to register?
Yeah. So the end period is, let me just find it here because I don't want to say anything wrong. It is through November. Oh, I don't know when I know it runs through November, but I am not sure when the registration ends, actually.
Well, you heard that. You better sign up now just so you don't miss it.
Yeah, it runs from October 18th to November 15th. I know that, but I don't know when the registration is over, but I will find that out. Yeah, there's some time left though, for sure. It's not like next week or anything like that. There's definitely, it may be that registration is open up until October 18th or soon, or maybe a week before that it might end.
Right. So makes sense.
So I want to follow up here. So to continue with this segue of building out these projects in different regions, like with the hackathons, can we focus a little bit on India and South America and talk about what you guys are doing with those countries and communities?
Yeah. So we hired a guy who ran the US Treasury India relationship at US Treasury. He brought the Secretary of the Treasury to India for the first time. The Secretary of the Treasury had been there in like 25 years kind of thing. And he's very, very politically and very, there's a lot of like captains of industry in that, the whole country has like, 10 big conglomerates, one of the big conglomerates, and he kind of knows all of them. And so we were, or I was a little bit, the only question I had about him was like, how Web3, how like degen is this guy going to be? Does he understand like we need developers, we need coders? No. And so he shows up with a guy named Micali, who's like who's the biggest Algorand. You should have these guys on your show. Actually, he's like the biggest Algorand fanatic in the world. They just happened to meet in an office one day, and he's super technical. And so he's running all of this training. And so they are really taking a top-down approach with a very high-level advisory committee and a bottoms-up approach trying to get developers. So they have now, I think you said in one of the questions that you sent earlier, that we were about to ink some partnerships, and we have inked these partnerships. So we have a partnership with NIT Patna and JNTD Hyderabad, and these are big universities in India. And we have done, I think, put like 100 professors through these programs. They're government-led programs. And so we're teaching the professors so that the blockchain curriculum is based on Algorand. The blockchain, what is blockchain is kind of like all the use cases and all the examples are Algorand. So we're pretty excited. And then those professors start blockchain clubs. And so we've started like 20 of these clubs already. And as part of the buildable, we're baking part of the buildable into the kind of India angle on it.
Yep.
And they've had a road to the Impact Summit. And as you know, we did not have Decipher this year. So we're taking this. So this Impact Summit is a pretty big part of what we're doing this year. And so this Impact Summit is going to be in India, and it is going to be focused on, obviously, it's called the Impact Summit. It's going to be focused on impact, solving real world problems, lots of examples from India, but also other protocols and companies coming in, but all very much focus on things like financial inclusion, self-sovereign identity, solving things for small, farmers and supply chain at a micro scale, micro carbon credits, that kind of thing. All of this like blockchain for good stuff, it's going to be the focus of that. So it's been a crazy roaring year on India. It doesn't come across our transom so much, but it's like on fire over there. And if you just look at, Algo Bharat had, one follower in February, and now it's really, it's a big presence on LinkedIn and Twitter and stuff. So they're hustling, those guys, for sure.
Yeah, that's huge. Can you speak a little bit more on South America as well?
Yeah, well,
like
South America, yeah, of course. So we are very geared up now for LibitConf coming up. I mean, people are really so we're sending, I don't know how many people down there, 4 or 5 people down there. We of course have a very strong partnership with Koi Banks in Argentina. They're our partner there for helping us when we think about partnership and build out and what's the word I want? Like implementation. They're an implementation partner for us. Of course, like all the noise that TravelX has been making recently. Yes. NFT numbers. Huge. It's really exciting, right? Agro token as well is another, and we've got Fred, our very own Fred, of course, based in Brazil.
Fred's the best.
Yeah, in the comments right now. Shout out to Fred.
Yeah, some shout outs to Fred. And we've got Camilo in Colombia, and we've got, we just got a lot of sort of more and more boots on the ground. Do I have a head of Latin America the way that I have a head of India? No. So do we have like a continent-wide strategy? Not yet, but we are thinking about how are we going to, what are we going to do in 2024 to kind of build from the success of these, because these are also very real businesses, right? Like, I mean, if TravelX really does everything that it's trying to do, it is going to disrupt one of the biggest industries in the world, right? And they're making some pretty solid progress already. So we're psyched for it.
And one quick thing to add on the South American news. One, we've heard them hint, the CEO of TravelX, that, they're looking to bring any other big airlines. One, do you know of any, obviously we know Flybondi is the one that has minted up the 1 million NFT tickets. Have you heard of any rumors of other, bigger airlines in South America or around the world that are partnering? And then with the Agro token and Visa, the news was massive when Visa started saying that they were going to be using Solana, and obviously they're on Ethereum and stuff. But we see Visa, partnering and being used with the Agro token, even the N1U app. I think the CEO of Visa met with that team, and they're someone who does a lot of transactions. So, I guess why isn't that being, pushed more as far as from a marketing standpoint to show that, hey, Visa's not just on Ethereum and on Solana, Visa's on Algorand as well. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I will say that the CEO of TravelX, while we have a good, relationship, I would say he does not tell me what is upcoming in terms of airlines. But if he says something's coming down the pike, it's coming down the pike. He's a very credible guy, and he doesn't, he's not one of those guys that like makes big claims that aren't true. So I think we can expect some good news coming out of them if that's what he said. And I take your point on this Visa Solana news. It just really wasn't news of any kind, really. And so we are very cautious to not overstate things. I mean, remember when I said Nike, because Jessica came from Nike, and like everything blew up for a day because I was kind of, you make a couple of mistakes like that and you get very cautious about not saying things that don't really have legs, because this community, we're all, and myself included, by the way, we're hungry for good news. And so I'll give you another example. I think it was Polygon also joined the India, the Italian central bank incubator, incubator. Yeah. And so they sent out, so we had already joined. I mean, we were joined, 4 or 5 or 6 months before these guys, right? So we were one of the very first, if not the first, to be invited to participate in this incubator. We made a little bit of noise about it, but we were very cautious about it. We didn't kind of overstate it. And then, Polygon did say that, and the Bank of Italia was furious with them, right? Like, that's not how they like to roll. They're putting their toe in the water. They're trying to do this properly. They're trying not to make mistakes. They're going to have this incubator process. We're all going to be working together. The idea is that you work on substance. You don't use it for just grandstanding and headlines. So I guess I will say guilty as charged a little bit on that. And we could probably do a better job of doing a little more of that. But we try not to get in trouble, as you know.
Right. Yeah, you got to walk that tightrope of, not overhyping and not overpromising, but also keeping everybody happy, which is probably the toughest task you might have, is trying to keep everybody happy. But if we could move the discussion a little bit towards governance, because governance is recently moved towards the xGov foundation, or so to speak. I believe it's still getting its legs underneath it. But what is working currently with governance? What is not, and how do you think, or how do you envision governance evolving from its current state?
Yeah. So one of the biggest changes I think we made since I've been here, I mean, I would really say it's one of the top things we've done, is take the grants program, which, as you know from the transparency report, was not particularly well thought through and strategic. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah. And we also have a lot of incoming from the community, and we have a lot of opportunity for engagement with the community. And so we took the grants program, and we are giving the grants program to the community. That's the idea, right? Now, Algorand Ventures got $4 million out the door this year and has funded, 18 companies, right? So it's not that we are not also investing in the ecosystem, but the grants program is going to be decided by the community. Okay, so we roll this thing out, and then we're not going to set the rules either. The rules is going to be community led through the ARC process, led by the community. We'll participate, of course, but we're we're trying to lead from behind, maybe is a way that you can put it, like, kind of a little bit, but not being too directive, right? And so one thing that I think was very good about it is that the voting tool for MakerX, and a shout out to MakerX for sure, worked really well. Like, it was flawless. And that was, could have been, it was a little bit of a risk. And so we're very glad that went flawlessly operationally. But of course, we got 60,000 ALGO out the door for a 2 million allocated ALGO. So that is not a success. That is not a success, right? For the first round. It's a first round, and so we've done, a Twitter space on this with you guys. So I think this is, again, where I feel like sometimes I'm saying things that you already know them, but it's worth it to say it for your audience. Your audience probably also already knows, but we had a couple of problems. One is that, only about a third or half of the algos kind of showed up, right? And so in the ARC rule making, you had to have, if you wanted 10% of the money, you had to have 10% of the vote. If you want 30% of the money, you had to have 30% of the vote. But that is not how voting works. In the United States presidential election, you don't have to win the majority of US citizens. You have to win the majority of the people that actually vote. So if you only have sort of 30% of the total voting algo, you can't, and you want a project that needs 10% of the voting algo, but only 30% of the total show up, you can never make that. You can never make that threshold. So what I think, these are all kind of in discussion stage, but I'm pretty confident that this is going to be observed, is that it will now be that you have to find the percentage of the stake that actually shows up. And a couple of big investors weren't able to participate at the end, and it was kind of a shame, but they custodied their assets with Copper, and Copper didn't allow wallets to participate in smart contracts out of their wallet. So it was really a custodial problem, it was not a lack of interest. So I think that's important for people to understand. So that, I think, is going to be a very big fix. And then a shout out to Ludo, who came up with the second big fix idea that, again, I don't know if it's completely been implemented yet, but I'm pretty confident that it will be, is that if you've got money left over after all of those projects meet the requirement of the percentage of the votes that show up, then the rest should be force ranked by how close did they get. And you can spend money down to, until you've spent the money, down to those. Maybe there'll be a lower bound threshold. I'm not in the details of this, but I thought that was not only a good idea, but a good example of community engagement on that. And then the third thing, I think, is a little bit like, it's a benefit to us that we're named Algorand. It's AL. It's always at the top of the list when you're alphabetizing things. And I think we did that a bit. So now we're going to randomly show the project so that they're not a little bit. So I think those are the three fixes that I expect to happen anyway for the next one. I think that will be a good, will make it much more vibrant, and we'll get a lot bit more protocols through for sure. While I'm giving shout outs, so I also want to give a shout out to Silent Rhetoric, who has put together like just the most amazing xGovs tool and display and metrics functionality. So I love these examples of just like community entrepreneurship that put these things together. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that answer, honestly. And to your point, I think a great journalist once said, you never ask a question you don't know the answer to. So I'll definitely appreciate that point. But
you're more nerve-wracking though than like the BBC. Like if I got on the BBC, they don't know anything. I could say anything, but like you guys, you already know so much, right? So you gotta bring your A game to the next block.
I do want to add to it. Some people said in the comments, but I think y'all should definitely check out Cardano's project Catalyst. They have some great ideas. We interviewed them a few months ago.
Yeah. I think John has talked about that a couple of times too, and we did. That is a little bit where we got some of the inspiration for it. But you're right. There's probably some details in that are worth emulating.
Yeah, I think so.
And to stay on the governance topic, just real quick, I'm curious. Algorand has a couple good DeFi options for governance. I mean, if we did, of course, just lose one with AlgoFi, but we gained another with Messina One's liquid staking MAlgo. Does Algorand still have any plans to support the DeFi parts of governance? Are there going to be extra incentives to use these DeFi platforms for governance, or is it going to be, all of the same sort of basket, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, we have, I think, for xGovs 9, there is going to be, I think it's 32, let's call it passive governance awards, another 7.5, which we give directly to DeFi protocols to encourage usage, and another 0.5 to NFT protocols, NFT platforms. So DeFi platforms and NFT platforms. And the stipulation for those, for that 7.5 that will go to the DeFi platforms, is that they can take the money, they can use it however they want. They can set up any kind of incentive structure they want, but it has to go to their users. They can't, take a trip to Mexico with it or whatever. They have to use it to incentivize users on a platform. They have the freedom to do that however they like, and same thing with the DeFi platforms. But that's the point of that. So again, the idea of this, I think, more broadly in terms of its evolution, is that participating in these votes is important, but that is not the only thing that makes you a quote unquote governor. If you think of a governor as somebody that works for the betterment of this ecosystem, participating in DeFi is a very important activity for you to be taking part in. Same thing with the minting and the trading and the displaying of NFTs and the collecting of NFTs. It's a very important part of what a leg to the stool of what holds up this ecosystem, right? So that's the kind of thing that we should be putting governance of rewards to, encouraging those activities, as well as the more passive governance. And of course, the whole thing will shift and evolve to paying for a consensus as well. I don't know, and don't hold me to this, but I kind of think that the DeFi incentive structures will remain even after we move to incentivizing consensus. That's my guess. And the other thing about xGovs, I will say, is that we want the xGovs then, as a next step for xGovs responsibilities and rights, I guess you could call it, is for them to be able to propose voting measures as well, and for them to be able to put things forward. So we think of that as a role that the xGovs will also lead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fantastic answer. We have a bunch more questions that we want to get asked, but we're going to take a quick, short little minute ad break, and we'll see everybody in just a little bit. And we are back. Check out the video description down below to support our sponsors. David, take it away. I know you got a question locked and loaded.
Cool Gora video, though, I have to say.
Yeah, shout out to Fred and the Gora team for obviously putting that one together for us. It came through really nice. Yeah, I do have a question, and that question is,
what happened to Seawell? Did we lose him?
I think something happened during the ad. I don't know.
Technical issue.
Questions. He's like, I don't want to talk about governance anymore.
We're going to roll with it. It looks like he's back on. We were just going to roll with the punches, but here we go. How you doing?
I'm back.
Thank you.
We missed you. Patient with me.
The Gora ad was too much. He had to go buy some Gora real quick. That's what
I had to load my bags,
So, my question is, we've talked about a lot of the, future things coming for Algorand. We've talked about some of the things already building and some of the, obstacles that we have. How do you, as the CEO of the Algorand Foundation, gauge Algorand's success right now?
Okay, so there are some foundation-specific internal things that I would consider as metrics of success, but I'll put those aside for now. And when I think about the metrics that I care about, I think about things like number of downloads, number of users, number of active users, TVL, transactions, that kind of thing. And so maybe I will governance participation, what is our share of stablecoin usage? These are all the kind of core metrics. And so I think we're okay on some of them, and we could do better on others. So I'll start with my favorite though. My favorite is monthly active wallets, and I'll tell you why. And our number there is, I think, about 800,000, and that is defined because it's a standard definition of one transaction per month. I don't like that definition, and I think it should be higher. And so I think our number is actually lower because I think this definition is a little bit weak. But the reason I like this as if I had to pick one as my favorite, it's because if you think about Starbucks, say, and you occasionally buy a Starbucks coffee, like I do, when I'm in the airport or I happen to, I buy, and then what do? I take out dollars and I buy a Starbucks and I get my Starbucks and I walk away. But if you have a Starbucks like in the lobby of your office building, and every morning it's like part of your routine, you go in, you go to the Starbucks and you go, you're a monthly active user of Starbucks. What do? You have a Starbucks debit card. You
get a
load
reward.
that debit card at the beginning of the month. You hold money on that debit card. You hold it on your Starbucks card, which, by the way, there's $2 billion locked in Starbucks debit cards, $2 billion with a B dollars locked. And so if you are a monthly active user on Algorand and you're in DeFi all the time and you're doing stuff, you're going to get ALGO. You're going to hold it for you to use easily. And when you are an intermittent participant in things, you might exchange into ALGO to do what it is you want to do, and then on a one-off thing. And so I like active users. I like that active user count very much because it's about, it has this element to it of holding on to ALGO for when you need it and needing it more actively. So that's my number one favorite. My number two favorite is developers, of course, right? And so there, we have, I think, 3,000 a week in the GitHub repo, and we have 35,000, I think, that have registered for our developer portal, and 40,000 in Discord. I guess one question I have is the 5,000 that are in Discord that are not registered for the developer portal. Like, register for the developer portal. There's a lot of good things there. So I don't know why you're in Discord and not on the developer portal. So I'm looking for 5,000 more over there. But these are numbers, of course. They're tricky to track. How many are building and what are they doing and how many, but it's something that we, and of course, Jason Weathersby, watches these numbers like a hawk to see how the developers are doing. Are we onboarding new developers? We expect a lot of those numbers to go up, of course, when Algokit comes in. Then I care about wallet downloads, of course, and I care, now I care a lot about Para wallet downloads in particular. I care about TVL. Our TVL is holding pretty strong at $1 billion ALGO, and it's it is holds up pretty well against competitors, I would say, too, on TVL. Our transactions per month is about 22,000. That actually, we are only fourth behind. I think Polygon is number one, then Near, then Ethereum, then us in terms of transactions, 22 million per month. And so, these are numbers that I think are pretty defensible for us, even though our ecosystem is small.
Okay. Thank you for that. So can we speak on NFTs a little bit more? So we got different versions of NFTs. So we have marketplaces like XMarket that is available for people to use and drop projects on. But then we have like lofty AI type of NFTs or real world assets. Do Algorand as a group have more plans to implement NFTs in the different forms and versions of them?
Yeah, I mean,
or to support these projects?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good reminder, right? That NFT means non-fungible token. That's what it means. And so a non-fungible token is the lofty AI pieces of the building DAOs that they set up. Each one of those buildings is its own DAO with its own, governance, etc. Or it is a airline ticket with TravelX that you can sell to somebody else if you don't want to take that trip, right? I mean, those are also, and then NFTs are, of course, also the art that, primarily the art that we understand them as. And those are all, they're all kind of the same in terms of how we approach them technically. And when you think about real world asset tokenization, I mean, a lot of times people think of those as tokens that are interchangeable, but they don't have to be. They can also be not interchangeable. It can be non-fungible tokens as well. And so it's a much bigger universe than collectibles or not, right? And so we have to, I think we don't think of them as the same thing. We think of, real world assets as with one strategy, and the NFT marketplaces as, we understand it as a kind of a different strategy, and the strategy is positioned, I would say, for them differently.
Yeah, and going back as well to that question I asked you about, how is Algorand gauging success? One, you talked about Starbucks and that, Starbucks debit card and 409 Algo or 409A, made a comment, I want an Algo debit card. I think that would be a really good way, to bump up that active users is give us just like Apple, maybe give us a titanium Algo debit card. That'd be pretty cool to be able to prepare.
That would be very cool. That would be. There's also crypto cash, and the marketing cost of this was too much, but but I could actually give you, and I thought, this would be fun to have algos that are like shaped like this, like dollars, but they're algos. And there's a strip on the back, and that's your the way that you kind of get it in your wallet and stuff like that. But a debit card would be pretty cool. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. And so going on to that question, I kind of want to segue into, right now there is a ton of new layer ones. I mean, it seems like there's a new layer one that claims to be faster, more secure, can handle more load every single day. And obviously you still have the competition. Algorand still has the competition from a lot of other, more chains that have been around the space for a long time. How is
layer twos coming up everywhere?
Exactly. Like layer twos. How do you see Algorand keeping its competitive edge against a lot of these newer ones that are coming up and staying relevant and staying kind of in the spotlight? And honestly, I would even say pushing the narrative, pushing back more in the narrative that like when a lot of these chains say they're faster. And I know John Woods does an amazing job. Shout out to John Woods in his critiques on Twitter when a lot of people make these posts that maybe are inflated. But how do you see Algorand keeping its edge with a lot of these new shiny toys coming out, especially as we're about to possibly hit another bull run with the Bitcoin halving and all that stuff?
Yeah. So, well, one thing I can definitely say for sure is that Algorand will not be able to compete with Ethereum on the whole, building of layer twos on top of us, because we simply don't need them. I mean, the reason all these layer twos are getting on top of Ethereum is because it's not fast enough, and they will always be inferior because they always will have to resolve back to the layer one in order, for their security, right? So we think our competitive advantages are threefold. One is the tech, two is the community, and three is just like the readiness. So you're right. We need to be ready to capture the next bull run. And so on the tech, I will point to, again, things that you know very well. We have instant finality, and our block times are only 3.3 seconds. And I do want to say, just as a parenthetical aside, that people get this wrong. And I would say that I got this wrong a little bit in the beginning as well, that our finality is not 3.3 seconds. Our finality is instant. It's instant, but our block time is 3.3 seconds. And so if you really want to do something serious, you 100% need to know that you are final as soon as you've done it, right? So we think that if I had to say one thing about us, I mean, we are of course resilient, and we are of course cheaper, and we are of course green, and we are all of these things that but the idea that we have instant finality, I think, is our number one differentiator. And that of course comes from Silvio's VRF function, right? Secondly, I think we continue to push, we is not the word that I should be using here. They continue to push on quantum security, right? And the Falcon key and state proofs brought out the Falcon keys. And what Falcon keys have done is taken now the history of the blockchain and made it quantum resilient. So we still have the same quantum resilience problems going forward. So it's not fully solved, but the history of our blockchain is now quantum resistant. And so we think that's a very important differentiator as well. But we always stand up here and talk about how great this tech is. And I think, it's well known. It's worth saying again and again, but it is well known. And I think the other piece of it, though, is, of course, this community, right? It's a very engaged community. It's a very smart about what we're up to community. I think, you guys have to appreciate, though, largely that you are our brand. You know, it's not our new website. It's not our new color scheme, although we do have a great new color scheme we're very excited about. It's not a logo. It's not any of that. It is you. And I think that you have to be careful sometimes how you legislate things in the public square, because sometimes I have had the feeling that if somebody else came down, a Martian came down, and all they could ever learn about Algorand was what I am added, at ampersand at, would they want to come to this, to this community? It's not always clear to me. I think, we go in waves, and, I'm not trying to be nice to you guys, but I will say that you guys are a very good example of this, because you're not pushovers. You don't like lob softballs all the time. You're not like shilling for us. You're very clear-headed. And JT, you in particular, with your markets insight and your market analysis, it's often bearish, about what's going on. But you're not like in it for the likes and in it for the riling up and, this.
People don't like it when I do that. I get less likes.
Every single time I make a buy on Algo, JT follows up with a bearish tweet, and I'm like, my gosh, no.
Right.
Right.
But
it's just looking at the market. I'm bullish on Algorand as a technology, and of course that's why we're still here.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? Like it's a
right.
So I'm not like having a whine necessarily, but I think it is our strength is this community and how active it is, and I think we all share a responsibility, and we continue. I mean, this is a bit of a warning. We are going to continue to push responsibility out to this community, and you're part of what is going to differentiate us from these new competitors, right? And then the last piece is like we just have to have our act together to hit the next, when sentiment turns. And I will tell you that we did not have our act together when I got here to do that. Like even if things turned, we just operationally we didn't have the right people in the right roles, and we didn't have the right groundwork laid to take advantage of that. And I will tell you that now we do. And so we're going to be ready for the community. And again, my disclaimer, which I will always say, is that we are not about the price at the foundation. Absolutely not. But we want to be ready for when sentiment turns, then people are turning to crypto. We want to be there for the builders for sure.
Yes. Thank you for that, Staci.
Absolutely. And I wanted to give a congratulations to our winner. So I'm going to try to share my screen here.
Already?
Yeah,
the crossword?
We had a some geniuses out there. I think it was crypto.algo was able to get into this wallet, drained the Gora, the MAlgo, the 2 loot boxes from Exa, the Coop, and we will be reaching out, or reach out to us on Twitter, whatever it might be, with information regarding minting that non-fungible domain. So definitely congratulations. That's a big win right there. Really cool to see. Definitely really cool to see. We have some community questions that I believe we have a little bit of time for. So let's tackle as many as we can. Let's see. So we've got one question asking here, which we touched on a little bit before, but mostly just to mention that, Polygon had a similar partnership or something like that. But a lot of people want to know about the Bank of Italy and how they're using Algorand. So we didn't really get to that part when we mentioned it, but what is the Bank of Italy doing?
Okay, so the Bank of Italy has the responsibility for the European system. So the ECB gives how can I put this? It gives different pieces. It gives out different jobs to the national banks of various different countries, right? And so the Bank of Italy is in charge of the TIPS wholesale euro payments rails. So they operate this on behalf of the European, the ECB, and it settles about $1 trillion a day. I mean, it's really, and it's mostly kind of on the back of bond trades. So the idea that you want to try to get to in bond markets is if you can tokenize the bond and tokenize the currency and have an on-chain currency and an tokenized bond, you can settle atomically immediately. And that has a number of very important implications. The first of which is that bond market participants don't have to hold collateral, because you always need to hold collateral against settlement risk, right? And so if you can have atomic settlement, you're taking a lot of collateral out of the system, meaning another way of saying that is you're taking a lot of risk out of the system.
Right.
So that is the project. And we have been invited to participate in that project and do a pilot with them and try to see how that would work. Now, personally, I'm not sure how they're going to execute on that completely if there isn't a CBDC or a very secure stablecoin that is not going to lose value even in a kind of even over a couple of days or a couple of hours. So they got to get the money piece back and the bond price, the tokenization piece. But we can do it operationally. I mean, we 100% can do it. It's a little bit this other stuff that still needs to fall in place. And if you will allow me to say something like super finance geeky.
Go for it.
Okay. So the CAPM model, and the CAPM model is where you get these concepts of beta and alpha, right? A core part of the CAPM model is something called the market portfolio, the whole market portfolio. And if you can tokenize everything, all the financial instruments for the first time, I mean, and one of the biggest complaints or criticisms of the CAPM model is that, like, there is no market portfolio. Like, what is that? Is that the S&P 500? There's no market portfolio. But if you can tokenize financial assets, you could potentially hold a little tiny piece of every asset, and you could actually hold the market portfolio in the CAPM, in the CAPM model. And if you're a CAPM model geek, that's an extremely exciting thing to contemplate. See, look at JT nodding his head.
I got to research that a little bit.
I was about to say, that's what I would do. I got to go research,
Yeah.
but what you said sounds amazing.
I told you it's
Yes.
geeky, but like there's this theoretical thing out there that maybe you could actually operationalize at some point. I think that's pretty cool. But I do not want to overstate what this Bank of Italy thing is. We're not doing like the CBDC for the euro or anything like that. We're in this innovation lab. We know that we can do it if we're called upon to do it. They are figuring out exactly, there's a lot of regulatory, elements to this as well, but we are, we're in the mix in this, in their pursuit of what's possible here.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something that everybody has to take, in the back of their mind when they're reading these partnerships or when they're reading that this, crypto is working with this government or this thing. Like, it's all experimental. All these governments, all of these, institutions, schools, whatever they are all experimenting just like we are with cryptos and testing out blockchains and seeing what solutions work, which ones won't work, and everything like that.
Oh my God. I mean, I was invited to be a participant on the Fed's Faster Payment Task Force in 2013.
Oh, wow.
They just rolled out Fed Now, 4 months ago.
Wow.
Like, they are slow, but also they don't want to get it wrong, right? Like, it's important. It's a
You
lot
can't
of
afford
money.
to at that level.
Right. You can't afford to at that level. Exactly.
So speaking on that being slow, but and also there's been a couple community questions in the chat. What is your thoughts on the whole SEC and kind of what we're seeing with the regulatory landscape in the United States? I mean, obviously we see Algorand thriving outside the United States in certain spots, but what is your thoughts with all the stuff with Gary Gensler and just saying that that it's clear when it maybe isn't clear, and how do you see that coming from your background, being in the from the banking side, with people custodial holding their own custodial assets, what's the security, what's not, what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think you actually said my punchline, which I don't appreciate actually, but but saying it's clear when it's not clear. I think that is really the difference about what happened this year. So Chairman Gensler has always said that there are appropriate SEC there's appropriate regulation, appropriate rules now that for him to act under, and that no new legislation needs to be passed. And I think some of these court pushbacks, and we've had one, first with Ripple, and then more recently with the Bitcoin ETF, right? Yep. That maybe it's not so clear. And maybe everybody is recognizing that it's not as clear as it might need to be. And so in my most hopeful moments, I think maybe we could actually get some crypto legislation in the country. And I think that's what we need. I think legislators need to decide. And this is not easy stuff. Like, I am super I get it. Like, I get it why it's hard, right? But because, is it an asset or is it money or is it what? Like, you have to, in different things and different. So, like, I understand that it's hard, but I think we are in danger in this country of being left behind. You know,
Yes.
Europe has put in some regulation that's sensible. There's things that, you know, the industry, of course, likes and doesn't like about that with the MiCA. There's good legislation now coming out of out of the Middle East and in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, some really sensible, and Hong Kong is starting to put so, you know, there are these places where there's a recognition that this is not going to take over finance, but there is a place for it, right?
Yep.
And I think we need to, you know, there's a lot of good people working on this in the United States as well. A lot of them are women, I will say, not for nothing, but there are a lot of good regulators working on this, of course. And I think, you know, Chairman Gensler, I don't know what to say exactly about that approach, but I think that I see, you know, and I'm hopeful. I see a path forward for us in the United States. And of course, you know, as you started off, we don't issue ALGOs in the United States. We are not a U.S. Organization at all, so we don't have a dog in the fight in any kind of U.S. We're very careful not to be in the U.S. But as a U.S. citizen, I hope that we don't get left behind some of this other stuff. But I will say also that there's some very good second mover advantages when it comes to this kind of thing. So maybe a little bit of a cautious wait, and being able to cherry pick the best from around the world is maybe not a terrible idea either.
Yeah, I just think, you know, in his remarks yesterday when he was testifying and whatnot, it was just so interesting when one of the people posed the question to him of, you know, is a Pokemon card, if I go buy a Pokemon card, is that a security? And, you know, he was like, well, no, you know, no, that's not a security. He said, now what if I buy a tokenized Pokemon card? Because Pokemon just released some Pokemon cards, and that literally it caught him. And he was just like deer in the headlights. I need to know more. And, you know, it does seem like it's, you know, kind of the political, you know, push and pull type thing with, you know, wanting to get the adoption to go, but also kind of, you know, stopping it and not being clear on purpose. And I'd also be interested to know your thoughts, you know, coming from the banking industry. We also saw the news that Chase was going to, you know, start declining. You know, I think it's in Europe or maybe the UK, but going to decline people's transactions if they saw that maybe they were buying cryptocurrency. And I've even ran into that being a U.S. citizen. If I tried it with a credit card, never with my debit card, but now it seems like even with debit cards. What are your thoughts there? And is that overstepping?
Yeah, I want to be clear that I am not saying that anybody is purposefully trying to do anything. I just think it's the situation that we find ourselves in is one where it would be great if we could have some legislative initiative. And I think that we may be in a better place for that. I think that was towards Binance, or was it crypto more broadly, or Binance? I did see it, but, you know,
Chase, I think it was crypto widely.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I did see that yesterday, but I don't know what it's about.
Fair enough. Totally fair enough. I think we got time for one last community question. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Sorry, I just lost it. Where is it? All right, we've got Leaks tuning in. How you doing, Leaks? We've got, where's the question? The question was, here we are. So do you know if the privacy layer announced by Silvio last year is still on the roadmap?
I think Silvio, when I talk to Silvio, he talks about privacy. I mean, he's very interested in privacy. Of course, it's a privacy layer, so I can't, you know.
So it's private.
It's private. It's private. But he's interested in privacy for sure. Yeah, for sure. He's interested in hard problems. I mean, honestly. And so privacy is a hard problem. And so, but like when I think about more broadly, what it will take for wide scale, real world adoption. And I think about things that like should be on chain, or, you know, and I think about medical records, for example. Like this idea that I could have is in the spirit of a self-sovereign identity. I can have my medical records. I don't have to keep calling every hospital for x-rays that I've ever been to in my whole life, right? That I could have them available and show them only where and when I wanted. That is going to require better privacy than we have right now, right? And so it's not just about hiding illicit assets that you got the last time you vacationed in North Korea, right? It's about the idea that you, as a corporate, you're not going to have your payroll information and your corporate secrets and stuff on chain if there's not privacy. And I think those kinds of questions, I think Silvio's quite taken with the difficulty and the potential for those kinds of issues. Now, I don't know how much of his weekly brain allocation he's allocating to that right now, but I know it's in there somewhere. for sure.
Yeah, and I know there's been a lot of people in the chat saying, "Where is Silvio? You know, what's Silvio doing?" I am sure that he is working very hard to tackle challenges that Algorand is fit to solve. I know that for sure, and it's going to be exciting. I know that a lot of people got really excited when they kind of made obviously when Sean Lee or not Sean Lee, Sean Ford kind of stepped away and he was kind of going to be more present. I think a lot of people got were excited about the little Twitter blurb videos with Silvio to kind of learn more about him. Do you know what, if there's any more of that to be expected, or what is his role, I guess, or what does he see kind of going forward?
Right. Well, I will tell you, one place you're probably never going to see him is on Twitter. I mean, if I'm seeing the tweet, it's almost like, he has this he's a helper, and you have to kind of like tell the helper, can you, open the tweet for Silvio? Because I mean, the guy works like 16 hours a day and he is not on Twitter, I will tell you. And I think it's funny to me when people at him a bit, because, he's not actually seeing that. He is not Charles, as we said, right? He is, for better or for worse. And I think there's great things about Charles being out front and being out front in that community. Silvio is not that kind of person. He is but you saw him at Crypto Bahamas, right? Like on the layer 1 panel, when everybody's in, t-shirts and shorts, and he's in his like beautiful Italian blue suit, and he crushed them. Right? Like he is all about doing things properly. And he's a very serious guy, and he loves his community. I'm not saying he doesn't love the community, but it is, when he does a talk, for example, his talk, he prepares. I mean, he really, really prepares. He puts so much effort and time into these, and he's an academic. He is who he is, right? And we're not going to be able to make him into somebody that he's not, right? So.
Oh, for sure. And I know a lot of people are probably excited to see where he's going to speak at next. And we hope, now that we've had you on the show, that you will put the bug in his ear to get him on the next block to talk to our audience in the Algorand community.
On the 100th show, right? So I'm the 75th, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
100th show would be perfect.
Let's get it etched in stone. Okay. Silvio on the 100th.
Now, I'm going to tell you, Silvio does not call me every Monday morning and say, what do you think I should do this week, Staci? He does not. But I will try to. I will. You guys are great for the community, and I think he'd have a good time doing it if I could get him to do it. And I promise that I will ask.
100th show.
Yeah.
Let's count on that.
Okay, 25 shows from now. All right, that gives me 25 weeks to work on this, or 20 weeks to work on it. Okay.
So, Staci, is there any question maybe that we had not asked, or just anything about Algorand right now that really you're excited about, and that you think the audience should know, coming up in the next few months? Anything that you want to say there?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think we are I'm proud of a couple of things we've done. I'm proud of the fact that we've turned this grants program over to the community, even though the first pilot is still finding its way. I think I'm very proud of the transparency report. Our CFO, by the way, was at a crypto CFO invite only conference. I mean, I know we're all very sad that we couldn't go to that. They were talking about accounting standards and all this kind of stuff. But and 2 other protocols came up to him and said, wow, we saw your transparency report. We're nothing like that kind of transparent. Have you organized yourself around that? How are you going to do that? So I think we get a lot of credibility for those kinds of things amongst our frenemies, let's just call it. Yep. I'm proud of that. So I'm super proud of the fact that we're a member of the Open Wallet Foundation with the big dogs, like seriously going to be able to have some. Yeah. And I'm so excited about the possibilities for para, even for on-ramping and just like it's a window, it's the portal into our ecosystem. So I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to do with that. And we know that we've got 3 months of bug fixes, and we've got to get this wallet connect thing sorted out. And that's going to take a little bit of time. But like 2024, having the Para wallet, being able to use that to communicate with the community, because they have, you can message through that wallet, and then being able to onboard people through that wallet. I mean, I could not be more excited about that. And of course, Algokit. And then this year, our DevRel team stepped up so much to get the educational videos up. And then there's just like Chris Kim, he thinks he's Tom Cruise now, because he's like so popular with these DevRel videos. And John Woods has been saying, I don't want to invest in serious developer education because it's expensive to do that kind of thing until we have Python. because we don't want to, we don't want to start teaching about things that we're going to be deprecating. There's a lot of things that we do now that you're not going to need to know about because Python is going to be such a friendly environment. But when we have Algokit up, then to be able to really go strong on a good zero to hero learning platform and education platform is going to be a top priority for next year. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm pretty excited about it. And then, I still continue to do my Twitter office hours with companies and protocols. And so that's fun. And I hope to keep doing that next year. So yeah, we're pretty excited over here, I have to say.
Excellent. Yeah, that's fantastic. I think this has been an amazing episode, honestly. I think, we really appreciate your time today. I hope everybody in the audience enjoyed this episode. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. We greatly appreciate all of our subscribers. Share the video with a friend. And Staci, there's literally dozens more questions in this live chat. So we're definitely going to have you back on in the future. People have so many questions. They want to hear your answers. They love when you come on and speak. So we'll have to set this up sometime in the near future.
Yeah, let's do it twice a year or something like that, or quarterly or something like that. I think that'd be fun. I appreciate you guys so much.
Sounds
JT,
perfect. We appreciate
shout out our peoples.
Absolutely. Special shout out to our sponsors of the show, Non-Fungible Domains, Exa Market, Gora Network, and Algo Foundry. Algo Foundry has some great products like Messina One and Algorand. Definitely go check them out. All the links in the video description down below here on YouTube. And to all of our watchers on Twitter, we appreciate you as well. Like, retweet this video, and hopefully we'll catch you all in the next video.
Smash, baby.
Yep. See you, everybody.
Awesome. Peace.
Take care, everyone.